Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Hakim. guys here worked really hard to put this show together. So please give all the guys a big round of applause. Yeah!
Hi, we're here for Ben TV, as you know. Hi, good evening. And here we are at an amazing show, especially after the show. Have a look who I've got here. This is Romana.
Hi, how you going?
And what do you do exactly with this?
The show?
Yes.
Okay, well, we're modelling Marquis de Sade's latest lines. This is a silk gown and a leather corset, showing it off for Sexpo.
It's superb. And here we have the devil.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I feel spooky.
Do you? Look at that headdress. Wow. And this, very you, isn't it? And thank you for your show, by the way.
Yeah, no worries.
It's great.
No worries.
Hi, how are you?
Very well.
I admire those fire fingernails of yours.
Thank you very much. I made
Have them
myself.
lit.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. I make all my own fire equipment because I'm averagely shorter than most, so I have to customise it.
And most people that do fire performances have to have some sort of diplomas and certificates to do that, I believe.
Pyrotechnics licence is a great help.
Very great. And thank you so much. It was quite impressive. Thank you. What is this?
This here is my personal whip, dual-ended kind of thing. Basically, I'm a vampire. Some of the other vampires have wonderful names like Chains. Mine is Snow Bunny. But this is, of course, more Marquis de Sade stuff. Very, very comfortable.
Very nice. It's
Very beautiful.
rather soft toes.
Have a feel. Go on, have a feel.
I am. And look at this gorgeous
It's all leather, of
tattoo.
course.
Ooh.
Yep.
Now that would turn anyone on, don't you think?
Well, it turns me on.
Ah, that's fantastic. Look, thank you very much.
No worries.
And thank you.
No problem.
we're here again with another two victims from Meebar, Chris and Chitty. How you going, guys?
Very good.
Very nice, thank you.
Now, why Chitty?
It's a little bit of my surname. It's a nickname that stuck from high school and just sort of went along from there.
I thought for a moment you might have been a fan of really bad musical films, perhaps.
No. No.
So I asked the other two girls last week about musical influences. Do you guys have any particular that brought you to this point?
I grew up kind of listening to the Smiths and who else? My Bloody Valentine, I think the girls mentioned before. Lots of actually different bands and lots of solo female artists as well. So Kate Bush was my main, was my first.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What about you?
I guess I started with my parents' influences like The Doors, Janis Joplin, and then I later got into stuff like Nirvana, My Bloody Valentine, Jesus and Mary Chain, all that kind of stuff. And then lately I've been getting into like Nina Simone, lots of Patsy Cline, sort of older stuff like that, and a bit of hip hop like Missy Elliott.
Well, it's certainly eclectic taste there. I think Hope said last week that you guys had played in Brisbane. Have you played round Australia much?
We were in
Tassie,
yeah, a month or two ago. And
we're about to head off to Sydney and Adelaide and Brisbane again.
Yeah.
And what about international sites? Any of those on the cards?
We're dreaming of Europe next year.
And possibly
the Dublin Pride.
Dublin Pride Festival,
Yeah.
which we sort of hooked up with in Brisbane last time we were there by meeting this very tall Irish woman.
An Irish Amazon, okay. Fantastic. I mean, is there, they do sort of say that Melbourne has historically been the sort of hub of the rock scene in Australia, but some people have said it's sort of flagging. Do you think that's the case, or is it still pretty much the epicentre?
It's definitely dying.
Is it?
Big time.
Why?
Yeah.
I think the crowd numbers are right down. I don't know where people are going, but
And
yeah.
venues and the noise pollution
restrictions,
crap, all that.
stuff.
Is it all this gentrification, yuppies and all that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Moving into the burbs.
Yuppie, Innerburg, yeah, yuppies, piss off back to Dandenong, please.
No more heroin chic rockers are left.
No, dear, I better not say that about yuppies. No, that's a shame. So how are the other cities going? Have you had a feel for the scenes in the different cities having been around?
Oh, I think the people in Hobart were really sort of into it because they're pretty starved down there for anything.
Anything, really?
Anything, yeah. Besides scones and coffee in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Brisbane, it's hard to tell because I just didn't like being there at all. I had the flu the whole week and...
Oh, I thought you were casting aspersions on our northern neighbours there.
No.
Okay, fair enough. What about, is there any sort of like gay rock scene sort of close to what we've got here in Melbourne, or is it pretty much...
Well, I keep hearing stories of what's going up in Sydney, but I haven't seen it for myself yet, so hopefully we'll catch it when we go up there in a couple of months.
Have you played there before?
No.
No? Is it... I hear it's sort of generally a harder market to crack than some of the others. Do you think that's true? Or?
Well,
It was hard getting a gig up there because they don't have quite as many venues as Melbourne does. So, and they kind of, they tend to put on more Sydney bands or international bands. They don't really put on many interstate bands or, not regularly anyway. So,
I think it's the same kind of vibe of Sydney is when you just go up there for a holiday. It's just not like Melbourne is and shit.
Yeah, it's a good place to visit, isn't it? But you'd be a bit starved of culture, I think. Do you guys do any of who writes your material?
Pretty much everyone. Someone will come in with a riff and we'll jam it out, or just when we start rehearsing, we'll all just plug in and start playing. And it generally turned into something like our single song sort of came,
just from
pretty much wrote itself in about 20 minutes. Like it came out of nowhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you just had the single out recently, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, came out through MGM about 2 months ago or 3 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's it called?
9 months later is the name of the EP. The singles Help Me Out.
Beautiful. Chaps, thanks so much, and best of luck with your upcoming gigs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
StKilda actually has a fairly long and diverse history, and it's been all sorts of things to many different people, to all sorts of people. Here is Shakespeare Grove, which has for quite some time now been one of the centres of sex work in Victoria, and in particular for male sex workers. It seemed like an appropriate place to talk about the way in which homosexuality has been criminalised as a sexual activity in Victorian history. In fact, male-to-male sex has been illegal in the British world. It started in England with King Henry VIII, well-known heterosexual and wife murderer, who in 1533 decided that the abominable crime of sodomy had to be taken out of the hands of the church and put into the hands of the state, where being an abominable crime, as opposed to an ordinary sort of crime, it invoked the death penalty, which remained in place. Those laws remained in place when the British settled Australia in 1788, and were still in place when Victoria was separated off from New South Wales in 1850. And so, well through the 19th century, you could, and occasionally people were, executed for acts of sodomy. In fact, the death penalty remained in place in Victoria for some offences until 1949. It wasn't used, it hadn't been used for most of the 20th century, but it hung over people's heads as the kind of ultimate penalty for an offence that, in the minds of many, was not all that serious. Although there was a wave of liberalisation beginning in the 1960s, homosexuality itself remained an offence in Victoria until 1980, so we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of decriminalisation this year. But the other way in which criminality was important, it created a kind of criminal underworld in which gay people, genuine criminals, other kind of sexual criminals, abortionists, prostitutes and so on, all got kind of bound together in the public mind. And in newspapers like The Truth, for example, most laughably misnamed newspaper in Australia, as late as the 1940s and 50s, clean up the city campaigns were targeted fairly indiscriminately at prostitutes, homosexuals, juvenile delinquents, drug users of various kinds. The Arts Balls were annual events held at various venues around Sydney, StKilda Town Hall, something has been talked about Palo Royale, I think, Melbourne Town Hall. The Arts Balls were to raise funds for the National Theatre. So they were big charity events at which all the most respectable people and us used to come quite frequently. They could be, you could come in kind of full tuxedo and ball gowns, you could come in costume, you could come in drag. And certainly we've got stories of groups of men and women coming cross-dressed, for the fun of it, of course. Freddie Asmussen and the crowd from Myers almost always won the competition. Richard, more about Freddie, the exhibition that's on at Melbourne Town Hall at the moment, talks about Fred and the Myers world. The Boilers won one year. They came as Burmese dancers, dressed in elaborate costumes with headsets that jingled in the breeze. Although nobody actually knew what they were, so they got known as the Green Men, which was not at all what they intended. So the Arts Balls was a really important event on the Melbourne social calendar, but also, of course, on the Melbourne camp calendar. Probably the most famous Arts Ball story that didn't make it into the newspapers, or indeed started to make it into truth, was the year that Max du Barry turned up in full drag. And of course in those days drag was about passing as a woman, not the kind of highly camp theatrical thing that we see today. Max du Barry turned up dressed as a woman and was selling kisses to raise money for charity. Most famously to the Governor of Victoria, who allegedly didn't know that he was kissing a man. Meanwhile, the Red Building over here was for about 10 years in the 1980s mandate. During the 1960s, camp people started to gather, in the 50s and 60s really, camp people started to gather in Melbourne. But it wasn't actually until the late 1980s, 1980, early 1980, that the first gay venue explicitly intended to be gay-owned, gay-run and for gay people was established. Prior to that, it was basically pubs that had, a spare night that they didn't know what to do with, and they would invite gay people or entrepreneurs to set up a gay night. Ken Payne decided, based on his experience overseas, that Melbourne was ready for a place that was gay-owned, gay-run and expressly for gay people. And Mandate began upstairs in that, through what is now the big red door of martial arts building. Mandate was new in a number of ways. It was mostly directed at men at a time when most of the venues were still mixed sex. Somebody told me the other night, Tuesday night, women were allowed in as well. Someone else told me she managed to learn to dance there, but how she did that one night a week is not clear to me. It was very much a kind of fetish and dress-up, or what we call the dress-ups for gay men. So kind of the decor, the first decor, the prison motif gives you some idea of the kind of masculine tone of the place. It had theme nights. It took to celebrating Australia Day, the Cup Eve, which is a tradition that had been well established in the 60s. On the eve of Melbourne Cup, people would have parties. Mandate decided to start having them in a kind of public and commercial way. There was a kind of informal back room down the end known as Maggot Alley. Well, it was critics anyway. And it also had the interesting innovation of a cover charge. At that point, the idea that you would pay to go into a pub seemed a bit provocative.
Do you enjoy Bent TV? Do you watch it regularly? Or do you sometimes feel just watching isn't quite enough? Well, then join us on the other side of the screen and volunteer for Bent TV. Help us make queer TV and have lots of fun on the way. You could work behind the camera on location or in the studio. Work with the gallery crew as a vision mixer, director, videotape operator or audio engineer. Make great friends and become part of the Bent TV family. They help bring interesting people and fun events into the homes of Melbourne. We want you.
For further details on volunteering, phone us on 9517 0125 or email us at feedback@benttv.org.au. We look forward to seeing you soon at the studio.